In Fallout 4, there are many different weapons and weapon classes you can choose from, most of which are firearms, but today, I decided to ask the question, can you beat Fallout 4 with only baseball bats? I started off by making our wonderful star here. Then I greeted a salesman the only normal way there is in the United States.
Won't take but a moment.
Anyways, after some arguing, I told him I am the famous baseball player, Robert Pattinson. I then proceeded to fill out my special stats, and I chose to put 10 in strength and endurance, as this is a melee run and I will need as much health as possible to close the gap for my enemies in order to swing my bat in their jawlines. After filling out information I didn't want to share, I was then told to care for my baby potato, whom I didn't love, and then was asked by my wonderful wife if I wanted to go to the park.
Miss the World Series?
I told her there was no chance I was going to miss the World Series, and then I had to watch something else instead anyway.
What's wrong?
Spoiler alert,
Almost
it was
there.
a nuclear
We're gonna
vault.
be okay.
I then went down into the vault, was told by a doctor to take a nap in a refrigerator, which I gladly accepted. Woke up, saw my wife get shot, then went back to sleep. I woke up once more and decided I had enough. I was going to find out who woke me up from my nap and avenge my wife. With that said, I started to make my way out of the vault, but first I had to get abused by some rather large roaches before I could make it back to the vault door. But after that, I had made it out of the vault to begin our challenge. After making my way down the hill to greet my old robot, he told me that we should clear the neighborhood, which I agreed,
Hey, Codsworth.
and then proceeded to let him do all the work while I grabbed a comic book and put a point in intelligence from the special book I collected. I met back up with Codsworth, and he realized that our family wasn't here.
Thanks for your
He told me to head to Concord to look around, so I listened and started to make my way down to Concord. But before I got there, I stopped at a Red Rocket gas station and met a dog who will be my faithful companion throughout the rest of this run. I went to this house just outside of Concord, and behind this door, there it was. The Almighty. The All-Powerful. Baseball bats! I picked it up and admired it, as I now knew there was no stopping me. I continued heading through the city and decided to use my new weapon of mass destruction. I bonked some nerds on the head outside of the museum, then proceeded to hack a terminal, which totally didn't take me 3 tries. Then after I stole the fusion core, I bonked even more heads inside of the museum. Preston Garvey then sent me to clear the rest of the raiders when a Deathclaw came out of the sewers to attack. I then had a really intense battle after I crippled its leg. Now that that's out of the way, I got directions to where I should look for my long-lost son. I went back to Sanctuary to dump some crap out of my pockets. I then started making my way to Diamond City. I ran into this diner with some people that were not so friendly.
This doesn't involve you.
I'm calling it right here. This world can officially bite my ass.
Hey, we all got problems, all right?
Because of this, they had to go. After I dealt with them, I continued along my way to Diamond City. When I was just outside the walls, there was a firefight between the guards and some super mutants. I totally did not wait to see if any of the guards would die so I could take their armor. Anyways, none of them did, so I moved onwards. I got inside the city and immediately went to get the most important thing there. A baseball uniform and a cap. I felt really swag after getting this uniform, but it was only half complete. Why half complete, you may ask? Well, now I have a really nice uniform, but I need a really nice baseball bat. The one I have helped, but it simply will not do anymore. I want to get the 2076 World Series baseball bat because it has a small chance to activate a unique ability that can send enemies flying into the air. With that said, I begin my journey to Jamaica Plains in order to get access to the underground bunker. This process causes me to die many times. As these are high-level ghouls and I am only level 5. I ended up having to go back to Diamond City so I could get some medical supplies before I went back to Jamaica Plains. Coming back to Diamond City, there was a bit of a situation involving a man pointing a gun at another man's head, but quickly after the armed man's head went pop, I just stood in the rain, contemplating life for a moment. Now traveling back, I cleared the rest of the ghouls and got inside. But after I got inside, I had to disable many tripwires. Now that I had gotten past that definitely on the first try, I made it into the final room to collect my prize. That was at last mine. My uniform was now complete and we could now move on with the rest of the game. Well, actually, I went to upgrade my gear before we continue, but on the way these foolish raiders decided they could take me on. So, I accepted their challenge, and then this proceeded to happen. This is why you don't challenge Robert Pattinson. Anyways, back at Sanctuary, I have upgraded my gear, and now we are ready to continue. I arrive back at Diamond City and go to the detective agency, only to find out the detective is missing. I tell the secretary I will help, and begin my journey on finding him. I make my way to the Park Street station and enter. Inside, there are triggermen that I surprisingly easily defeat. However, in some of the more open rooms, it's a bit more challenging, as there are a lot more of them shooting at me at once with automatic weapons, draining my health. In order to combat this, I will hide until 2 or 3 get near, attack, run somewhere, and repeat the process. Moving deeper into the station, I find a vault, and I have my first baseball bat fight. I prepared for an intense fight. Then this happens. Oh well, maybe the next bat versus bat fight will be more intense. I continue heading deeper into the vault and continue dealing with the triggerman. And then I encounter another triggerman with a baseball bat. I prepare myself and... Oh well, okay, I suppose I will just stop anticipating baseball bat fights from now on. I continue making my way into the vault and find Dino, who is standing just outside the detective's room. I quickly deal with him, hack the computer, and open the door. We begin escaping, and I simply blitz through many triggermen until we arrive back at the entrance of the vault, only to find the leader of the gang, Skinny Malone. I walk behind them and just start swinging, and before you know it, they are dead. I make my way out with Valentine, and he tells me to head back to his office, which is precisely what I did.
Someday, Death's gonna laugh back.
Not as long as I got a few friends to back me up.
I told Valentine details about what happened down there in Vault 111. I then learned that the man who did this was likely named as Kellogg. So we went to his house, but the door had a master lock on it. This required me to go to the mayor's office to get a key, but he seemed to be quite a bum.
I know it's disappointing, but I have to think of all the people of Diamond City, not just the needs of one person.
And I was this close to smacking his thick-skulled butt. But but I decided to just wait for the right moment to pickpocket him for it. Because there was no way I was paying him any money.
Need something, honey?
I got the key and searched Kellogg's house to find a secret room with various items. Dogmeat was able to track the cigar I had picked up.
I'm trusting my family's future to a dog. That's it. I'm officially crazy.
I sarcastically told myself that this was a bad idea, and then was quickly proven right by Dogmeat walking into a wall. And with that, I was on my way to find the man that took my son. The journey did not take too long, just a few mole rats, mongrels, and ghouls to deal with. I had arrived and was now making my way. I fought my way through the various rooms without too much of a challenge, as the standard synths would go down with 1 or 2 hits. The turrets on the ceiling were slightly annoying, but once I closed the distance, they weren't too much. At last, I had made my way to Kellogg, the man that took my son and killed my wife. I aggressively asked him where my baby potato went, and he laughed and waved a gun at me. I then pumped myself full of drugs and hatred and went on a short rampage! After he was dead, I discovered the Institute took my son. So with that knowledge, I left. As I was exiting on the roof, this immaculate, massive blimp showed up and stole the spotlight. This blimp belonged to the Brotherhood of Steel. After it had passed, I simply went back to Diamond City to talk to Nick about my findings. After some short talk, we agreed to head to the Memory Den to try and figure out where this institute is.
Well, you two are...
I made my way to Good Neighbor. Once I got inside, a man named Finn threatened me and told me I had to pay insurance, or else. You already know that threatening Robert Pattinson is a bad idea. Shortly after Finn learned this lesson, I had made my way into the Memory Den and greeted Valentine and Dr. Amari. After some explaining, I got inside the Memory Lounger and proceeded to walk through the entire sequence, as it is extremely boring because it is only remotely interesting the first time. In the last memory, I learned that the Institute uses teleportation to get in and out, and that I needed to find a man by the name of Virgil in the glowing sea. With this knowledge, I was off for quite a long journey. I could have used a hazmat suit, or power armor, as those would have been the smart choices, But my baseball uniform was simply the correct choice. I made my way deeper into the glowing sea and had many encounters with rad scorpions. I think by the time I got to the crater, I'd killed around 12 or 14 of them. I spoke to one of the children of Adam at the crater for information. Now that I had gotten information as to where Virgil is exactly, I went to his cave. Once inside, I talked to him, and he seemed very disturbed to see me. I told him I was no threat, and we exchanged information. He told me to get inside the Institute, I would need a courser chip. He showed me where and how to find a courser. So yet again, I was off. This time to find a courser chip. I traveled to the CIT ruins. Once I got there, I started listening to the homing beacon and eventually made my way to the Green Tech Genetics building. Once I got inside, I learned that I had to clear multiple floors of gunners in order to get to the courser. So, you know what that means. It's montage time. Once I cleared through the building, I had made my way to the courser, and he told me I had no business here. So, I told him this.
I'm here to pick up an order. 2 large pepperoni and a calzone. Name is you.
If you're not here for the synth, then you're here for me.
It seemed as though he wanted 2 cheese pizzas instead of pepperonis, so he raised his gun at me and it was time to fight. After that, I powered on the elevator, left the building, and made my way to Goodneighbor in order to decode the courser chip. I talked to Dr. Amari, and she told me she was unable to decode it, but she knew who could. She told me about the railroad, but not where to find them. With that, I made my way to the railroad. Just outside of the Old North Church, I hacked a terminal that had a suit of power armor inside of it in case I wanted to use it for later. I made my way inside the church and through the underground tunnels to find a dial in which the password was the most complicated password I had ever tried to crack. Can you guess what it was?
It spins.
It was railroad. Now that I had cracked the password, the wall opened up and I stumbled into the railroad, whom I had a short interrogation with them. I told them I had a Corsair chip, and there wasn't much talking after that, as they wanted the information on it as well. They let me inside of their headquarters. They decoded the chip, and I went back to the Glowing Seed to talk to Virgil about the signal interceptor plans. With these plans, I went to the Minutemen to ask them to help me build it. Preston told me that there were more important things to do than find my son, and said I need to help out with a random settlement, and he wouldn't help me until I finished that quest. I thought, screw that! So then I went back to the railroad, and they told me the same thing. So, with no other choice, I did the Minutemen quest and went to the Corvega assembly plant. I cleared them all out and fought the raider in charge very dramatically. After that, I went to Preston, who would now let me build the interceptor. He told me to talk to Sturgis, and I started building the interceptor. Once I finished, I stood on the platform, and then a pipe broke. He told me not to worry about it, but I did. And I soon teleported inside the Institute. Once inside, I used the network scanner to download the Institute's information. After that, I went towards the elevator and listened to a voice on the intercom which told me to step into the elevator. I went inside the elevator and saw the Institute for the first time. I then got to see Sean, who had grown up from a baby potato to a young potato. I greeted myself, and he started to panic. Shortly after, I learned that this wasn't really my son. Father stepped in and told me that he is the real Sean. So, as it turns out, my baby potato is now an old potato. After catching up with Sean for a little bit, I introduced myself to all of the division leaders of the Institute. You may be wondering which faction I am going to side with in this challenge, and I have decided to side with the Institute. Why? Because they have ice-cold Nuka-Colas. I then went back to Sean, who told me to meet up with a Corsair just outside of Libertalia to pick up a rogue synth. I started making my way through, and just as I started, I got abused by this hit point melting machine, aka this turret Mark V with explosive bullets. After that was dealt with, I continued making my way through the area until I got to the final room where X6 told me the code to deactivate the synth. Once I was on the roof, I used the code to deactivate the synth, killing his raider friends in the process, and went back to the Institute. Sean then told me about more rogue synths at Bunker Hill. I agreed to help out, so I started making my way to the monument. It was chaos, as the Brotherhood, the Railroad, and the Institute were all there. I had scurried my way inside the bunker and fought through the Railroad agents to find the room with the synths. I used all the recall codes and then blitzed past the Brotherhood forces on my way out. Once back outside, there was still a lot of chaos and fighting, so I used a stealth boy and ran past everyone until I got to a safe location to fast travel to the CIT ruins in order to meet with Sean on the roof. I made my way through the building and made it to the roof. I spoke to Sean about the mission, and he spoke about the Commonwealth and how it's doomed, blah blah blah. After his rant, he told me to attend an important meeting. I went back inside the Institute and made my way to the meeting room and waited for Sean to arrive. I sat in the chair and everybody in the room discussed the future of the Institute and how we needed to get a reactor going in order to secure the future of the Institute. At the end of the discussion, Sean told everyone that he was dying. I talked to him and he told me that there was nothing I could do and that we needed to move on to secure the Institute's future. He told me I needed to help Allie Fillmore get a beryllium agitator in order to power the reactor. I decided to take some precautions as my butt was severely kicked at Bunker Hill. I was sure this was going to be a lot more intense. I went back to Sanctuary and put on some of the Brotherhood armor I had looted and put it onto the frame. I was upgrading the armor before I ran out of supplies, so I had to do a quick shopping trip. I finished putting the coating on the armor and then went after a fusion core. Once I had that, I entered the armor and felt pretty darn cool.
You're tied to this place.
Now that I was prepared, I headed back to the Institute to begin the mass fusion mission. We landed on the rooftop and I had my favorite swing of the video right here. After clearing the enemies on the roof, I found the password and key card and went into the elevator. I felt like the main character as I went down the elevator. The Brotherhood had been waiting inside the building and all I could do was take the shots like a man as I couldn't do anything to defend myself. They blew up the support system for the elevator, so I cleared the rest of the Brotherhood and repaired it. Once I got to the room that was storing the beryllium agitator, I took it, which tripped the security system, causing me to fight a sentry bot, assaultrons, turrets, and protectrons. I had finally made it out of the mass fusion building and was told to return to the Institute. But before I did, I had to repair my armor. I finished repairing my armor and headed to the Advanced Systems Division to hand over the agitator to Allie Fillmore. She told me to head to Sean, so I did just that. He wanted to speak with me about recruiting a man named T.S. Wallace. He told me where he was and why he needed me. The team dispatched there was having trouble because Wallace had hired guns. With this information, I headed to the location, dealt with the hired guns, and headed inside. I would like to mention that I got a short automatic laser musket, which is one of the most rare legendaries that you can get. And it made me kind of sad that this was a baseball bats only challenge, and I had two of them apparently. I tried to recruit Mr. Wallace diplomatically, but was unable to do so. So the Institute made the decision for him. With that chore out of the way, I had to do another. Father wanted me to give a speech to the people of the Commonwealth about the Institute. After I had given the speech, I headed to Diamond City to make the broadcast stronger so more people could hear it. With the final chore out of the way, I was told to go and direct a meeting. I spoke to all the leaders of the division about attacking the Brotherhood. With the meeting over, it was time to prepare and get moving. But before that, I had to speak to Sean once more, and he tasked me with destroying the railroad before we went after the Brotherhood. So, I was off towards the Old North Church and quickly dealt with everyone inside of the railroad. After that was done, I got the green light from Sean to deal with the Brotherhood. I got the debriefing from Dr. Lee and went up the elevator to relay to teleport to the airport. My objective was to clear the devices that were stopping Synths from teleporting to the airport, then protecting a Synth with a virus that will hack Liberty Prime and destroy the Prydwen along with the Brotherhood. With that plan now in action, it's time for the final montage of this challenge.
Time to go, sir. We're relaying to a safe location.
With the Prydwen destroyed and the Brotherhood dealt with, I answered the question, can you beat Fallout 4 with only baseball bats? Let me know if you want to see more challenges like this one, or if you want different content in the future. Please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. This challenge was a lot of fun and I enjoyed making it for you guys. So with that said, thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I am DoobTube, and I will see you all in the next one.